The Chinati Mountains loomed like silent sentinels over the Chihuahuan Desert, their jagged peaks clawing at a blood-red sunset. In the fading light, the abandoned trail snaked through scrub and juniper, barely visible under years of neglect. Ruth Donnelly, 68, adjusted her pricey hiking boots, her breath puffing in the chilly October air. Her husband, Carl, 71, trailed behind, gripping a walking stick, his face etched with the stubborn pride of a man refusing to let age win. "Ruth, slow down, damn it," Carl grumbled, wiping sweat from his brow. "This trail's a death trap. Ain't been used since Reagan was president." Ruth shot him a look, her bifocals glinting. "Quit whining, Carl. The map said this loop's got the best views. Besides, we're not that old." She smirked, but her voice wavered as she glanced at the darkening woods. Locals in Presidio whispered about these mountains' ghostly figures in the mist, trails that led nowhere. Ruth shook off the thought. Just small-town nonsense. They trudged another 100 yards, the trail narrowing until they stumbled on a weathered wooden outhouse, its boards gray and splintered, half swallowed by time. A rusted padlock hung loose, the door creaking in the wind. Ruth wrinkled her nose at the faint, sour stench. "Lord, who'd build a crapper way out here?" Carl chuckled, poking the structure with his stick. "Forest Service, probably. Bet it's been empty since the trail shut down in '92. He peered inside, the darkness swallowing the light. "Still, kinda creepy, ain't it?" Ruth rolled her eyes, but her bladder had other ideas after their 3-mile climb. "Hold my pack, Carl. I'm not squatting in the bushes." She handed him her backpack and stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under her 130 pounds. The pit below was a black void, the air thick with decay. She fumbled with her zipper, then froze as her bifocals slipped from her nose, clattering into the abyss. "Damn it." Ruth's curse echoed off the wooden walls. "Carl, my glasses fell in." Carl poked his head through the doorway, grimacing. "Those were $600, Ruth. You gonna make me fish 'em out? Just get in here and help." She snapped, her voice sharp with panic. Carl sighed, pulling a small LED flashlight from his keyring, an old habit from his engineering days. He knelt by the pit, shining the beam into the darkness. The light caught something glinting below, but it wasn't glass, it was metal. A badge, tarnished but unmistakable, pinned to a tattered sheriff's uniform. And then he saw it, the shriveled, mummified remains of a man, slumped against the pit's wall, a rusted revolver still holstered at his hip. Carl's stomach lurched. "Ruth, this ain't right. There's a body down there." Ruth's hand flew to her mouth, her scream muffled. "A body? In there? Oh, God, Carl, what is it?" He swung the flashlight, the beam trembling. The corpse's skin was leathery, stretched tight over bones, preserved by the dry mountain air and the sealed pit. 2 dark holes marred the chest bullet wounds, clean and deliberate. The badge gleamed faintly, engraved with a name. R. Holbrook. "We gotta call someone," Carl stammered, stumbling back. "Ranger station's got a radio. Come on." Ruth clutched his arm, her face pale as ash. Who leaves a sheriff in a damn outhouse?" The wind howled through the pines, a low, mournful wail that seemed to answer her question. As they scrambled down the trail, the outhouse stood silent, its secrets exposed after 19 years, whispering of a darkness that Presidio, Texas, had buried deep. 3 miles away, in the Presidio police station, Detective Simon Reyes hunched over a cluttered desk, the fluorescent lights buzzing like angry wasps. At 42, Simon's broad shoulders and buzzed hair screamed ex-Marine, but his gray eyes carried a weight heavier than his 200-pound frame. A photo of his sister, Maria, stared back from a frame gone at 19, snatched by traffickers a decade ago. That loss drove him, gnawed at him, made every missing person case personal. Tonight, he was neck-deep in the file of Amy Torres, a 17-year-old who vanished 3 days ago near the Rio Grande. Her photo-bright smile, dark curls taunted him from the desk. The phone shrilled, shattering his focus. Simon snatched it up. "Rays. Detective, it's Hutchins, park ranger up in Chinati," the voice crackled. Got a situation. Hikers found a body in an old outhouse. Looks like law enforcement. Uniform, badge, the works. Been there a long damn time. Simon's gut twisted. You sure it's a cop? Badge says, Sheriff R. Holbrook. Mean anything to you? The name hit like a sucker punch. Simon's chair scraped as he stood, knocking over a coffee mug. Holbrook. Jesus. I'm on my way. Don't touch anything. He grabbed his jacket, heart pounding. Ray Holbrook and Deputy Laya Ortega Presidio's coldest case. Missing since October '85, their patrol car found abandoned on Highway 67, keys in the ignition, no trace of struggle. The town had spun wild theories, cartel hit, runaway lovers, even alien abductions. Simon never bought the gossip, but the case haunted him, a ghost that lingered in the station's dusty files. Kara, he barked, spotting Detective Kara DuPont by the coffee machine. She was 45, sharp as a blade, with dark hair pulled tight and eyes that saw too much. We got a body up in Chinati. Might be Holbrook. You're with me. Kara set down her mug, her face unreadable. Holbrook? After 19 years? That's convenient timing. Convenient ain't the word, Simon muttered, striding past. He paused at the armory, where deputies Debbie Carr and Trish Marrero were checking their gear. Debbie, mid-30s, blonde, had a gambler's nervous energy. Trish, a touch younger, auburn hair in a bun, always seemed one bad day from breaking. Both had been rookies in '85, and Simon remembered their old statements, claims that Holbrook was a creep, making passes at them. It had fueled the theory that he'd kidnapped Laya and bolted. Carr, Marrero. Simon called. You're coming. Chinati Mountains now. Debbie's head snapped up, her blue eyes wide. Chinati? What's going on, Simon? Possible break in the Holbrook-Ortega case, he said, watching them closely. Trish's hands froze on her holster, and something passed between them, fear, maybe guilt. Simon filed it away. Move it. The drive to Chinati was a 20-minute blur, Simon's Ford Explorer chewing up the winding dirt roads. Kara rode shotgun, flipping through the old case file, her silence heavier than usual. Debbie and Trish followed in a second cruiser, their headlights flickering in the rear view. The desert stretched endless around them, a sea of shadows broken only by the stark silhouette of the mountains. File says, Holbrook and Ortega were chasing leads on missing girls, Kara said, her voice low. 3 women vanished that summer, all tied to cross-border trafficking. They were last seen at the Dusty Spur Saloon, asking questions about truckers. Simon gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. Yeah, and then poof gone. Car on 67, no blood, no witnesses. FBI sniffed around, figured cartel, but nothing stuck. Kara's eyes flicked to him. You think this body's gonna crack it open? I think 19 years in a shithole means someone wanted him gone bad, Simon said. And that note in his pocket? Sounds like Laya knew something worth killing for. They reached the trailhead, where Ranger Bill Hutchins waited by a Forest Service truck. His weathered face was grim under his wide-brimmed hat. Detective Reyes, it's a quarter-mile hike. Hikers are up there with my partner. Fair warning, it's a hell of a sight. Simon nodded, slinging a flashlight from his belt. The group trekked up the overgrown path, loose rocks skittering under their boots. Debbie and Trish lagged behind, whispering, their faces pale in the moonlight. Simon caught snippets too close, and should have stayed quiet, and his gut churned. Something was off. The outhouse came into view, a rotting relic in a small clearing. Ruth and Carl Donnelly stood nearby, shaken but composed, their expensive gear out of place in the rugged terrain. Ruth's voice trembled as she recounted dropping her glasses, Carl's flashlight revealing the horror below. I thought it was just trash, Carl said, his voice rough. Then I saw the badge, and the bullet holes. Ain't no accident, detective. Simon approached the outhouse, Kara at his side, both snapping on latex gloves. The pit stench hit like a wall, but Simon leaned in, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. The body was a ghastly tableau. Holbrook's mummified corpse, frozen in a slumped pose, the sheriff stared dull, but defiant. 2 bullet holes pierced the chest, precise and brutal. The revolver, a .38 special, hung untouched in its holster, and there, tucked in the shredded pocket, was a crumpled note. Simon fished it out with tweezers, unfolding it carefully. The ink was faded, but the words were clear. Laya knows. Don't trust anyone. His pulse spiked. Kara, look at this. She squinted at the scrawl, her jaw tightening. Leia wrote this? Or Holbrook? Either way, someone was scared shitless. Scared enough to die for it, Simon said. He bagged the note, his mind racing. Laya Ortega, 25 and 85, had been a rookie with a kind heart and a fierce streak. If she knew something cartel secrets, dirty cops, anything, it could have painted a target on both their backs. He turned to Debbie and Trish, who stood apart, their faces ghostly. You two worked with Holbrook. Anything you remember about that night? Anything you didn't put in your statements? Debbie's laugh was brittle. 19 years, Simon. It's a blur. He was pushy, you know? Always leaning on us, making comments. We told the feds everything back then. Trish nodded, too quick. Yeah, he wasn't right. Probably dragged Laya into whatever mess he was in. Simon's eyes narrowed. Their story felt rehearsed, like a script they'd clung to for decades. You sure about that? 'Cause this note says someone was hiding something big, and I'm gonna find it. Debbie's gaze darted to Trish, then away. Good luck, detective. That case is a graveyard. The forensics team arrived an hour later, their floodlights casting eerie shadows across the clearing. Dr. Patricia Chen, the medical examiner, crouched by the pit, her gloved hands probing the remains. Dry conditions and the sealed pit mummified him, she said, brushing dirt from the badge. These bullet wounds 9mm, close range. Execution style. I'd say he's been here since 85. Simon nodded, his mind elsewhere. The note burned in his thoughts. Laya knows. Was she a victim, a traitor, or something else? And why were Debbie and Trish acting like they'd seen a ghost? He radioed the station, ordering the Holbrook Ortega file pulled. Martinez, get me everything, witness statements, FBI notes, the works, and run a check on any missing persons from the last month. This ain't isolated. Kara joined him, her expression hard. You're thinking Amy Torres, aren't you? Her case and this, too close for coincidence. Damn right, Simon said. 3 girls went missing in 85, same as now. If the cartel's still running this game, we're late to the party. Hutchins approached, holding a topographic map. This trail was abandoned in 92. Rock slides, too dangerous. That outhouse hasn't been serviced in years. Whoever dumped him here thought he'd vanish. Thought wrong, Simon muttered. He scanned the clearing, the pines swaying like mourners. The air felt heavier now, charged with something he couldn't name. His flashlight swept the tree line, catching a faint carving on a nearby trunk, a circle with 3 diagonal slashes, etched deep into the bark. What the hell is that? He whispered, stepping closer. The symbol felt wrong, like a warning scrawled in haste. He snapped a photo, his skin prickling. Kara frowned, joining him. Looks old, could be nothing, kids, vandals, or, it's a message, Simon finished. He turned, ready to call the team, when a sharp crack echoed from the wood's footsteps, fast and retreating. He drew his Glock, spinning toward the sound. Who's there? Show yourself. The forest swallowed his voice, the only answer, the wail of the wind. Debbie and Trish froze, their eyes wide, hands hovering near their holsters. Simon's pulse thundered. Someone was out there, watching, waiting. And that symbol, that note, that body, they were just the beginning. The Presidio police station smelled of stale coffee and desperation, its fluorescent lights flickering like a dying pulse. Detective Simon Reyes slumped at his desk, the Holbrook Ortega file spread out like a crime scene of its own. The crumpled note from the outhouse. Laya knows. Don't trust anyone burned in his mind, its words looping like a taunt. That weird symbol on the tree, a circle slashed with 3 lines, gnawed at him too, like a puzzle piece from a nightmare. It was past 10 p.m., and the station was a ghost town. Just the night dispatcher's radio crackling in the distance. Simon rubbed his eyes, exhaustion clawing at him. The photo of Amy Torres, the 17-year-old who'd vanished 3 days ago, stared back from her file. Her case felt too close to Holbrook's, like the desert was coughing up old sins. He flipped to the 1985 report. Sheriff Ray Holbrook, 42, and Deputy Laya Ortega, 25, last seen leaving the station at 8:47 p.m. on the 15th of October. They'd been chasing leads on 3 missing girls, all tied to cross-border trafficking. Their patrol car turned up on Highway 67, keys in the ignition, no blood, no struggle. The FBI had poked around, sniffed out cartel connections, but the trail went colder than a January night. His phone buzzed, jarring him. "Reyes," he answered, voice rough. "Simon, it's Chin," the medical examiner said. "Got prelims on Holbrook. 2 9mm slugs to the chest, point blank. Time of death's tricky, but the mummification lines up with 85. No defensive wound, she didn't fight back. Weird thing? His holster was snapped shut, like he never drew his piece." Simon's gut twisted. So, he trusted whoever shot him. Or he was too out of it to react, Chin said. "We're running tox screens, but it'll take days." "Thanks, Doc." Simon hung up, staring at the note again. Laya knows. Knows what? And why the hell was Holbrook dumped in a shithole like some forgotten trash? A knock at the door snapped him out of it. A woman stood there, maybe 30, with dark eyes and a leather jacket that screamed big city. Her hair was pulled back, but a few strands framed her sharp face, like she'd been running on coffee and grit. "Detective Reyes? Elena Vasquez, freelance reporter. I heard about the body in Chinati. Sheriff Holbrook, right?" Simon leaned back, sizing her up. "News travels fast. What's your angle, Miss Vasquez?" "No angle," she said, stepping inside. "Just answers. My dad was Miguel Vasquez, bartender at the Dusty Spur Saloon in '85. He vanished right after Holbrook and Ortega did. I'm betting it's connected." Simon's pulse kicked up. The Dusty Spur was where Holbrook and Ortega had been last seen, asking questions about truckers. "Your dad ever talk about that night?" Elena hesitated, her fingers tightening on her bag. "Not much. He was scared though. Said the saloon was a front for bad shit smugglers, maybe worse. Then one day, he was just gone. No note, no nothing. I was 11. Simon nodded, filing away her tension. She was holding something back, but he'd let it slide for now. "All right, Elena. Let's take a walk. Dusty Spur's still open, and I'm itching to see what's changed in 19 years. The Dusty Spur Saloon squatted on the east side of Presidio, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. The parking lot was a mix of beat-up pickups and semi-trucks, their chrome glinting under sodium lights. Inside, the air reeked of beer, fried onions, and secrets. A jukebox wailed Willie Nelson, and truckers hunched over tables, maps, and logbooks spread between their bottles. Simon's detective badge drew stares, but he ignored them, scanning the room. Elena followed, her eyes darting like she expected her dad to walk out of the shadows. The bartender, a wiry kid in his mid-20s with slick back hair, wiped down the counter. His name tag read Carlos. "What can I get you, officer?" he asked, his voice too casual, his hands twitching. "Detective," Simon corrected, leaning on the bar. "Bourbon, neat, and some answers." "You know anything about Miguel Vasquez? Worked here in the '80s. Carlos froze, just for a second, then forced a shrug. "Before my time, man. I've been here 3 years. Heard the old guy up and left. Skipped town, maybe." Elena's jaw tightened. "Bullshit. My dad wouldn't just leave me and my mom. Someone made him disappear." "Easy, lady," Carlos said, raising his hands. "I don't know nothing about that. People talk, that's all." Simon sipped his bourbon, watching Carlos squirm. "Let's try this again. Back in '85, Holbrook and Ortega came here, sniffing around about missing girls. Your bar's still a trucker hangout. Anything funny going on? Strange shipments? Shady drivers?" Carlos's eyes flicked to a corner table, where 4 men in flannel and ball caps sat, their beers untouched. "Look, man, I just pour drinks. Truckers come and go. Some from Mexico, some local. That's it. Simon followed his glance. The men at the corner table were too still, their gazes locked on him. One had a tattoo peeking from his sleeviest circle with 3 slashes, just like the one on the tree. Simon's blood ran cold. "Those guys over there," he said, voice low. "They got a name." Carlos swallowed hard. "They're just Los Transportistas, drivers from Ojinaga. Pay their tabs, keep to themselves." "Los Transportistas," Elena repeated, her voice sharp. "Transporters. Real creative. What do they transport, Carlos? Drugs? Girls?" "I don't ask questions." Carlos snapped, then caught himself, lowering his voice. "You don't get it. You ask too much around here. You end up like your dad." Simon leaned closer, his voice a growl. "You're gonna tell me everything, kid, or I'll haul your ass to the station." "Spill it." Carlos's shoulders slumped, sweat beading on his forehead. Okay. They pay me to watch for cops, all right. Day, locals, anyone nosy. I text a number if someone like you shows up. That's all I do, I swear." "Who's the number belong to?" Simon pressed. "I don't know. Some guy in Ojinaga. They call him El Lobo." "Look, I'm small time, man. Don't drag me into this." Simon exchanged a glance with Elena. El Lobo Raul Espinoza, a name from the old FBI reports, a cartel enforcer with a rap sheet longer than Highway 67. He was about to push harder when his radio crackled. "Reyes, it's Hutchins. Got another missing girl. Lisa Hernandez, 19, last seen hiking near Chinati. Found her backpack on the same damn trail as the outhouse." Simon's stomach dropped. "Copy. Send a team to secure the scene. I'm headed back." He turned to Carlos, tossing a tin on the bar. "We're not done, kid. Stay in town." Outside, the desert air was sharp, the stars hidden by a creeping fog. Elena followed Simon to his Explorer, her face pale. "Another girl?" "Simon, this is just like 85. They're still out there, aren't they?" "Damn right they are," Simon said, climbing in. "Then Los Transportistas know more than they're letting on. Your dad, what else did he say about the saloon?" Elena hesitated, her fingers twisting a silver ring on her hand. He talked about a guy, someone everyone feared, called him El Sombrath Shadow, said he ran everything, even the cartel. I thought it was just drunk talk, but now..." Simon's grip tightened on the wheel. "El Sombra. Great, another ghost to chase." He started the engine, but his mind was racing. The symbol, the note, now this shadow figure Presidio was a house of cards, and he just kicked the table. Back at the station, Simon dug into the Holbrook Ortega file, Elena hovering over his shoulder. The reports painted a grim picture. 3 girls, Maria Lopez, 20, Sarah Evans, 18, and Rosa Gutierrez, 22, vanished in the summer of '85. Holbrook and Ortega had been poking into rumors of a trafficking ring, following tips to the Dusty Spur. Witness statements from the saloon's old bartender Miguel Vasquez mentioned rough-looking truckers from Ojinaga, but he'd clammed up when pressed. Then he disappeared, same as the sheriff and deputy. Simon's phone buzzed with a text from Chen. "Found something in Holbrook's uniform. Pocket held a key, looks like it fits a lockbox." Sending it over, he cursed under his breath. A key, a note, a symbol, too many pieces, not enough picture. Elena paced, her boots scuffing the linoleum. "My dad kept a ledger, you know, for the bar. He was obsessive about it. If he saw something shady, he'd have written it down." "Where's it now?" Simon asked. "His old office, maybe. The saloon's got a back room, piles of junk from the '80s. If we're lucky, it's still there." Simon grabbed his jacket. "Then we're going back. Now." The Dusty Spur was quieter now, the jukebox silent, only a few stragglers nursing their beers. Carlos paled when he saw Simon and Elena, but he didn't argue, leading them to a cramped office that smelled of mildew and cigarettes. Filing cabinets lined the walls, stuffed with yellowed receipts and faded ledgers. Simon started rifling through them, his flashlight cutting through the dust. Elena pulled a leather-bound book from a drawer, her hands trembling. This is it, his handwriting. She flipped it open, scanning the pages. Rows of numbers drink orders. Supply shipments gave way to cryptic notes. Ojinaga run, 10 divided by 10 divided by 8, 5 to 3 crates, no labels. Cash only. Then, on the last page, Holbrook asked about the girls. Too many questions, they'll kill him. Simon's blood ran cold. Your dad knew something was coming. Why didn't he go to the cops? Elena's eyes glistened. He was scared, Simon. Scared of El Sombra. Whoever that bastard was, he had the whole town on a leash. Before Simon could respond, his radio crackled again. Reyes, it's Martinez. We found something in Lisa Hernandez's backpack. A drawing. Looks like charcoal. It's of Laya Ortega. And there's a note. She's still here. Simon's heart stopped. He grabbed the ledger, shoving it into his jacket. Elena, we're leaving. Now. They stepped into the parking lot, the fog thicker now, swallowing the neon glow. Simon's Explorer was parked under a flickering streetlight, but something felt wrong. The air was too still, the silence suffocating. He scanned the lot, his hand on his Glock, when he spotted a dark blue Chevy Malibu, idling 3 spaces down. The driver's face was obscured, a baseball cap pulled low. Elena, get in the car, Simon said, voice low. We've got company. She froze, her eyes locked on the Malibu. Simon, that's the same car I saw outside my motel last night. He didn't answer, flooring the gas as they peeled out of the lot. The Malibu followed, its headlights slicing through the fog like predator eyes. Simon took a sharp left onto Mesquite Street, then another onto 3rd Avenue, trying to shake it. The Malibu stuck to them, relentless, its engine growling. He made a sudden right onto Desert View Road, no signal, and the sedan's blinker flashed as it followed. Son of a bitch, Simon muttered, his pulse hammering. He pushed the Explorer to 70, weaving through the empty streets. The Malibu kept pace, 3 car lengths back, a shadow that wouldn't quit. Simon's mind raced cartel, Los Transportistas, maybe El Sombra himself. Whoever it was, they didn't want him digging. He spotted the Chevron station on Palm Street, its harsh lights a beacon in the dark. Without signaling, he swerved into the lot, pulling up to a pump. Stay low, he told Elena, watching the rear view. The Malibu slowed as it passed, its driver a silhouette under the cap. Simon caught a glimpse Hispanic male, maybe 40, face half hidden. The car didn't turn in, cruising past and vanishing into the fog. Elena exhaled, her voice shaky. Who the hell was that? Someone who doesn't like us asking questions, Simon said, pretending to check his phone while scanning the road. 5 minutes passed, no Malibu. He relaxed, but only a fraction. Let's get you back to your motel. Then I'm digging into that drawing. The drive to Elena's motel was silent, the fog pressing against the windows like a living thing. Simon dropped her off, watching until she locked her door. Back at his small ranch house on the edge of town, he bolted the door, the ledger, and case file spread across his kitchen table. The clock read 1:17 a.m., but sleep was a lost cause. He poured a bourbon, his hands still shaky from the chase. The drawing of Leia, faxed over from the station, lay next to Amy Torres's file. It was eerie charcoal lines capturing Leia's face, her eyes hollow, her mouth set in a grim line. The note scrawled beneath it. She's still here, sent a chill down his spine. Here where? Presidio? Ojinaga? Or somewhere darker? Somewhere the Chinati Mountains kept hidden? Simon's gaze drifted to the window, the desert beyond a sea of shadows. He stood, checking the locks, when he noticed that the window in his bedroom was cracked open, the curtain fluttering. He hadn't touched it. His Glock was in his hand before he knew it, his heart pounding as he crept toward the room. The air was cold, heavy with the scent of dust and something else charcoal. On his bed, untouched by the fog, was another drawing. Laya's face again, but this time her eyes were black voids, and the circle with Slash's symbol was etched in the corner. A single word was scrawled across her throat, Chinati. Simon spun, sweeping his gun across the empty room. Who's there? He shouted, his voice swallowed by the silence. The wind howled outside, a mocking laugh, and the drawing fluttered like a warning. Someone or something knew he was close. Too close. The charcoal drawing of Laya Ortega lay, like a curse on Simon Reyes' kitchen table, its blacked-out eyes boring into him. The word Chinati scrawled across her throat pulsed in his mind, a taunt from someone or something that knew he was digging too deep. It was 2:47 a.m., and the bourbon in his glass sat untouched, the ice melting into a cloudy puddle. His ranch house felt like a trap, the open bedroom window a mocking invitation. Whoever left that drawing had been inside, silent as a shadow, and Simon's Glock stayed close, its weight a cold comfort. He hadn't slept, not after the Chevy Malibu tailing him from the dusty spur, not after Carlos's nervous confession about Los Transportistas and El Lobo. The ledger from Miguel Vasquez, Elena's dad, was another thorn in his side, cryptic notes about Ojinaga runs, and a warning that Holbrook's questions would get him killed. And now Lisa Hernandez, 19, was missing, her backpack found on the same cursed trail as Holbrook's body, with a drawing of Leia and a note, "She's still here." Presidio was unraveling, and Simon was caught in its threads. His phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a text from Elena. "Can't sleep. Found something in Dad's old letters. Meet me at the diner, 6 a.m. Simon typed back a quick, "On it," then leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The fog outside, pressed against the windows, thick and unnatural, like the desert was holding its breath. He'd seen fog like this once, the night his sister Maria vanished, and the memory clawed at him, her laugh, her dreams of college, all snuffed out by traffickers who'd never faced a courtroom. A creak from the porch snapped him upright, his hand on the Glock. He crept to the door, peering through the peephole, nothing but swirling mist and the faint outline of his pickup. "Get a grip, Reyes," he muttered, but his pulse hammered. He double-checked the locks, then grabbed the Holbrook Ortega file, flipping to the witness statements. Debbie Carr and Trish Mororo's words from 85 stared back. Holbrook was inappropriate, made advances. "We think he took Laya and ran." It had shaped the case, painted Holbrook as a predator. But the note in his pocket, Laya knows. "Don't trust anyone," screamed a different story. Debbie and Trish were hiding something, and Simon was done playing nice. Dawn broke gray and heavy, the sun struggling through the fog. Murphy's Diner, a greasy spoon on Presidio's main drag, was half empty at 6 a.m., just a few truckers and a waitress named Judy who'd seen it all. Simon slid into a booth across from Elena, her face pale, a stack of yellowed letters on the table. She looked like she'd wrestled with ghosts all night, her leather jacket creased, and her eyes bloodshot. "You okay?" Simon asked, waving for coffee. "You look like hell." Elena forced a smile, pushing a letter toward him. "Couldn't sleep after that drawing. Found these in my mom's attic last night. Dad wrote them before he vanished. This one, it's bad, Simon." He unfolded the paper, the ink faded but legible. Miguel's handwriting was shaky. "Elena, Mija, if I don't come home, don't look for me. The saloon's a snake pit. Holbrook's stirring it up, asking about the girls. El Sombra's watching, he sees everything. Stay safe." Simon's jaw tightened. El Sombra again, the shadow Elena had mentioned, the one Carlos feared. A myth, maybe, but myths didn't leave bodies in outhouses. "El Sombra," Simon said, sipping the burnt coffee Judy slid over. "Your dad thought he was real. Any idea who he was?" Elena shook her head, her fingers twisting that silver ring. "Dad never said a name, just that Sombra ran the show cartel, truckers, even cops. Said he had eyes everywhere, like he knew your thoughts before you did." Simon leaned forward, voice low. "Carlos mentioned a guy, El Lobo, out of Ojinaga, cartel heavy. If Sombra's the puppet master, Lobo's his muscle. And I'm betting Debbie and Trish know more than they're letting on." Elena's eyes flashed. "Those deputies? They were at the saloon in 85, right? Why'd they point the finger at Holbrook?" "Exactly," Simon said. "Their story stinks. I'm hauling them in today, but first, I need to check something." He pulled a folded map from his jacket, an old Forest Service topo from the Holbrook file. A red X marked a spot deep in the Chinati Mountains, labeled Cave System 7. Holbrook's notes scrawled beside it, "Trafficking hub? Check for crates." Holbrook was on to something out there. "I'm going up. You in? Elena didn't hesitate. Hell yeah. If Dad knew about this cave, it's why he ran. The Chinati Mountains were a maze of rock and shadow, the trail to Cave System 7 barely a scratch in the earth. Simon's Explorer bounced over ruts, the desert air sharp with creosote and dust. Elena rode shotgun, clutching Miguel's ledger, her face set like she was marching to war. The fog had lifted, but the sky was a bruised gray, the peaks looming like judges. Simon's radio crackled as they parked at the trailhead. It's Martinez. Forensics found something else in Holbrook's pocket, a silver ring, engraved with Sombra. Mean anything? Simon's blood ran cold, the word echoing the letter, the myth. Baggett, Martinez. I'll check it out when I'm back. Any word on Lisa Hernandez? Nothing yet. Search teams are sweeping the trail. Stay safe up there. Simon clipped the radio to his belt, grabbing a flashlight and his Glock. Let's move, Elena. This cave's a long shot, but Holbrook marked it for a reason. The hike was brutal, a half-mile climb over loose shale and thorny scrub. Simon's boots crunched, his eyes scanning for that slash circle symbol. Elena kept pace, her breath ragged but determined. You think Lai is really out there? She asked, voice low. After 19 years? If she's alive, she's not the same Laia, Simon said. That drawing, it's like she's screaming for help, or warning us. They reached the cave, a yawning maw on the mountainside, its entrance half blocked by fallen boulders. Simon swept his flashlight inside, the beam swallowed by darkness. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of earth, and something sour decay, maybe. He stepped in, Elena close behind, their footsteps echoing like whispers. The cave opened into a chamber, its walls rough and jagged. Simon's light caught something unnatural. A circle of animal bones, coyote skulls, rabbit ribs arranged on the floor, precise and deliberate. In the center, a pile of ash, still warm. What the hell? He muttered, kneeling. Carved into the wall above was the slash circle symbol, its lines deep and fresh, like it had been etched yesterday. Elena's voice trembled. Simon, this isn't a trafficking hub. This is some kind of ritual. Before he could answer, his flashlight glinted on something metallic, a silver ring, identical to the one Martinez described, half buried in the ash. Simon picked it up with a gloved hand, the word Sombra gleaming in the light. Holbrook had one of these, he said, his voice tight. Someone's marking their territory. A low scrape echoed from deeper in the cave, like boots on stone. Simon spun, drawing his Glock. Who's there? He called, his voice swallowed by the dark. No answer, just the drip of water and the thud of his own heart. Elena gripped his arm, her eyes wide. We're not alone, she whispered. They backed out slowly, Simon's gun trained on the shadows. The desert outside felt like a trap now, the silence too heavy. As they reached the Explorer, a glint of metal caught Simon's eye, a black SUV, parked 100 yards down the trail, half hidden by junipers. Its windows were tinted, but Simon swore he saw movement inside. Elena, get in, he hissed, sliding into the driver's seat. He floored it, the SUV's headlights flaring to life behind them. The chase was on, tires screaming over dirt and rock. Simon pushed the Explorer to 60, weaving through the narrow trail, the SUV gaining fast. Hold on, he shouted, yanking the wheel to avoid a boulder. Elena braced herself, her voice sharp. Who are they? Cartel? Los Transportistas, I'd bet, Simon growled. He grabbed his radio, raised to dispatch. I'm on Chinati Trail 3, pursued by a black SUV, no plates. Need backup now. Copy, Rays, the dispatcher crackled. Units are 10 minutes out. 10 minutes? Elena snapped. We'll be dead by then. Simon spotted a fork in the trail and swerved left, the SUV overshooting. He slammed the brakes, grabbed his Glock, and fired 2 shots at the SUV's front tire. The pop of rubber echoed, the vehicle fishtailing into a ditch. 2 men bailed out, one sprinting into the scrub, the other raising a pistol. Simon ducked as a bullet pinged off the Explorer's hood. Stay down, he yelled, returning fire. His shot clipped the gunman's shoulder, and the man dropped, cursing in Spanish. Simon was on him in seconds, cuffing his wrists. The guy was mid-30s, wiry, with a snake tattoo curling up his neck. "Who sent you?" Simon demanded, pressing the Glock to his temple. The man spat blood, grinning. "You're dead, pendejo. El Lobo don't play. And Sombra? He's everywhere." Simon's radio crackle backup was close. He secured the gunman, but the second man was gone, swallowed by the desert. Elena emerged from the Explorer, her face pale but fierce. "What did he say about Sombra?" "Same shit your dad wrote," Simon said, bagging the man's pistol. "We're hitting the station. Debbie and Trish are gonna talk, whether they like it or not." The Presidio station was a hive of tension by noon, officers buzzing over the chase and Lisa Hernandez's case. Simon marched Debbie and Trish into an interrogation room, the air thick with sweat and fear. Debbie's blonde hair was frazzled, her eyes darting like a cornered animal. Trish clutched a coffee mug, her knuckles white, her auburn bun unraveling. Simon slammed the ledger on the table, the ring and Holbrook's note beside it. 19 years ago, you two said Holbrook was a creep, probably kidnapped Laya. But this? He jabbed the note. Says you're full of shit. Holbrook was onto something, and someone shut him up. Start talking, or I'm charging you with obstruction. Debbie laughed, brittle and hollow. You're fishing, Simon. We told the truth back then. Holbrook was bad news. Bad news? Simon leaned in, voice a growl. He's got 2 bullets in his chest, dumped in a shithole, and this ledger says he was asking about missing girls same as now. You were at the Dusty Spur that night. What did you see? Trish's mug slipped, coffee splashing the table. We didn't see nothing, just heard shots, found their car later. That's it. Simon slid the ring toward them, its somber engraving glinting. This was in the cave Holbrook marked, same as the one in his pocket. You know what it means, don't you? Debbie's face drained of color, her voice barely a whisper. You don't get it, Simon. You don't cross El Lobo. Or her. Her? Simon snapped. Who's her? Trish broke, tears streaming. The witch. She works for Lobo. Gets in your head, makes you see things. We were broke. Simon me kid was sick. Debbie's debts were drowning her. Lobo offered cash to look the other way. Said Holbrook was dirty, that he deserved it. Simon's stomach lurched. Deserved what? Getting shot? Dumped like garbage? You helped cover it up, didn't you? Debbie sobbed, her voice cracking. They killed him at the saloon. We saw it Lobo's men, beating him, shooting him. They threw Laya in a van, said she'd disappear. We helped move the body. Thought the outhouse would be serviced, gone forever. Simon stood, pacing, rage boiling. You sold out your own sheriff. And Laya? You let her rot for 19 years. Where is she? We don't know. Trish wailed. Lobo said she was dead. Please, Simon, we were scared. That witch she knew our secrets, said she'd curse us. Simon slammed his fist on the table. No more excuses. You're done. Names, places now. Before they could answer, his phone rang. Padre Joaquin, the town's priest, his voice trembling. Detective Reyes, you must come to the church. It's urgent. I found something. About Laya. Simon grabbed the evidence, his mind racing. Stay here, he told Debbie and Trish, signaling an officer to watch them. Elena, let's go. The San Patricio church stood on Presidio's edge, its adobe walls crumbling under years of neglect. Padre Joaquin, a frail man in his 60s, met them at the door, his hands clutching a rosary. The sanctuary was dim, candles flickering like dying stars. Thank you for coming, he said, leading them to a small office. I should have spoken sooner, but I was afraid. He handed Simon a folded paper, its edges worn. This came in the mail, years ago. I thought it was a prank, but after the body, Simon unfolded it, his breath catching. It was Laya's handwriting, shaky but clear. Padre, I'm alive. Save me. Ojinaga. The darkness won't let go. The date was smudged, but it looked recent within the last year. Laya's alive? Elena whispered, her voice breaking. Why didn't you tell anyone? Joaquin's eyes glistened. The confessional binds me. Men came, cartel men, confessing sins, murders, abductions. They spoke of a shadow, El Sombra, who owned them. I feared for my life, for the town. Simon's grip tightened on the letter. Ojinaga. That's where we're going. But first, tell me everything you know about Sombra. Before Joaquin could answer, the church's lights flickered, plunging the room into shadow. A cold wind gusted through, snuffing out the candles. Simon drew his Glock, spinning toward the door. A figure darted past the stained glass window, a silhouette against the fog. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice echoing. The silence was deafening, broken only by the priest's whispered prayer. Simon's flashlight swept the room, landing on the altar. There, pinned to the cross, was another charcoal drawing of Laya, her face twisted in a scream, the slash circle symbol carved into the wood below. The air turned to ice, and Simon knew they were running out of time. The San Patricio church felt like a tomb, its air thick with the chill of secrets. Detective Simon Reyes stood frozen, his Glock trained on the shadowed doorway, the charcoal drawing of Laya Ortega pinned to the altar like a grim prophecy. Her scream-etched face and the slash circle symbol carved below sent a shiver down his spine. Padre Joaquin's whispered prayers filled the silence, while Elena Vasquez gripped Simon's arm, her eyes wide with dread. The figure that had darted past the stained glass window was gone, swallowed by the fog, but its presence lingered like a predator circling. "Stay here," Simon growled, edging toward the door. His flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing nothing but empty pews and flickering candlelight. The letter in his pocket Laya's desperate plea from Ojinaga, "I'm alive." "Save me," burned against his chest. 19 years after her disappearance, she was out there, trapped in a nightmare, and Simon was done waiting for answers. He turned to Joaquin, his voice sharp. "You said cartel men confessed to you." "Names, Padre. I need names." The priest's hands trembled on his rosary. "Raul Espinoza, they called him El Lobo. He spoke of taking girls, moving them across the border, said Laya was special. Kept alive for Sombra's orders." "Special?" Elena snapped, her voice cracking. "What the hell does that mean?" Joaquin shook his head, eyes downcast. "I don't know, only that Sombra wanted her broken, not killed." Lobo laughed about it, like it was a game. Simon's jaw clenched. El Lobo, the cartel enforcer, was the key, and Ojinaga, just across the Rio Grande, was where the trail led. He grabbed his radio. "Raised to dispatch. I need a line to Border Patrol and the FBI field office in El Paso. We're crossing into Mexico. Suspected trafficking ring. American citizen in danger." "Copy, detective," the dispatcher crackled. "That's a big ask." "You'll need. Just make it happen," Simon cut in. "And get me Captain Hernandez and Ojinaga. We're moving tonight." Elena followed him out, her boots scuffing the gravel. "You're going after her, aren't you, Laya?" "Damn right," Simon said, climbing into his Explorer. "But I need you to stay put, Elena. This is about to get ugly." "No way," she shot back, sliding into the passenger seat. "My dad's tied to this Sombra, Lobo, all of it. I'm coming." Simon didn't argue. Her fire reminded him of Maria, his sister, and he couldn't deny her the chance to fight. "Fine, but you stick close and do what I say." The Presidio station was a war room by dusk, officers scrambling to coordinate with federal agencies. Detective Cara DuPont stood by the map table, her dark eyes scanning the border crossing points. She'd been quiet since the church, her usual sharpness dulled, like she was wrestling with something heavy. Simon watched her, the note from Holbrook echoing, "Don't trust anyone." Cara had been a rookie in '85, same as Debbie and Trish. Did she know more than she let on? "Cara, you good?" Simon asked, handing her a coffee. She took it, her fingers brushing his, but her smile was tight. "Just processing." "Laya alive after all this time?" "It's a lot." "Yeah, well, we're getting her back," Simon said, checking his Glock. "FBI's on board, D's sniffing for drugs, and Mexican feds are meeting us at the bridge. You ready for this?" "Always," Cara said, but her eyes flicked away, and Simon's gut twisted. Something was off, but he didn't have time to dig. Debbie and Trish were in lockup, their confessions still ringing in his ears. They'd helped Lobo's men dump Holbrook's body, thinking the outhouse would erase their sin. But Laya? They swore she was dead, or so Lobo claimed. Simon wasn't buying it. The drawings, the letter, the whispers of sombre, they all pointed to Ojinaga, to a house of horrors called Rosa de Fuego. The Presidio Ojinaga International Bridge gleamed under floodlights, the Rio Grande dark ribbon below. Simon's convoy, 2 FBI SUVs, a DE van, and 3 Mexican federal police units rolled across at 9 p.m., the border agents waving them through under emergency protocols. Captain Roberto Hernandez, a grizzled Mexican officer with graying temples, met them on the Ojinaga side, his face carved with resolve. "Detective Reyes," Hernandez said, shaking his hand. "We've tracked your targets to Callejón de Rosa, the red light district. A brothel, Rosa de Fuego. It's a cartel front, drugs, girls, you name it. We've been building a case, but your missing deputies forced our hand." Simon nodded, checking his vest. "Leia Ortega's in there. So are 2 of my deputies, Debbie Carr and Trish Maroro. We think Lobo's holding them." Hernandez's eyes narrowed. "El Lobo's slippery. If he's there, we hit hard and fast. My men secure the exits, Delaware. Handles narcotics, FBI processes any Americans. You and your team focus on your people." "Got it," Simon said, glancing at Kara and Elena. Kara's jaw was set, but her hands twitched, and Simon's unease grew. Elena, armed with nothing but a notepad and grit, gave him a nod. "Let's do this." Ojinaga's streets were a maze of neon and decay, the Zona Rosa pulsing with music and desperation. Callejón del Rosa was a narrow alley, its bars and brothels painted garish colors. Rosa de Fuego loomed at the end, a 2-story building with a flickering neon rose above the door. A Freightliner semi was parked outside, its cab dark, flanked by a scattering of pickups. The place reeked of trouble, and Simon's pulse thundered as they approached. Hernandez signaled his men, and the raid began with military precision. Policia Federal echoed as they breached the front and rear doors, flashlights slicing through the smoky haze. Chaos erupted, men scrambling for exits, women screaming, bottles crashing to the floor. Simon pushed through the main bar, his Glock raised, scanning the maze of hallways and curtained rooms. DEA agents swarmed a back office, shouting about heroin stashes, while FBI suits rounded up dazed American girls. "Spread out," Simon yelled to Kara and Elena. "Check every room, Laya's here somewhere." The brothel was a labyrinth, its walls papered with faded red velvet, the air thick with sweat and cheap perfume. Simon kicked open a door, finding a terrified girl, maybe 16, curled on a mattress. "You're safe now," he said, waving her toward an agent. Room after room held the same broken girls, drugged or resigned, their eyes hollow. His rage grew with every step. This was what Maria had faced, what Laya had endured for 19 years. "Simon," Elena's voice cut through the din, sharp and urgent. He sprinted to a stairwell, finding her at the top, pointing to a locked door. "I heard voices, American voices. It's them." He nodded, shouldering the door. It splintered open, revealing a dim room with a stained mattress and 2 figures in tattered uniforms. Debbie Carr and Trish Maroro sat slumped against the wall, their faces bruised, tears streaking their dirt-smeared cheeks. Debbie's blonde hair was matted, Trish's bun long gone. "Thank God," Trish whispered, her voice raw. We thought no one find us." Simon knelt, checking their pulses. "What happened? Where's Laya?" Debbie sobbed, her voice barely audible. "Lobo grabbed us. After you found Holbrook. Said we'd talk, so he brought us here." "Laya's deeper in, Simon. They've had her all this time." "Stay with them," Simon told Elena, radioing for medics. "I'm going after her." He moved down the hallway, the chaos of the raid fading behind him. The last door was heavy, reinforced, a padlock dangling loose. He eased it open, his flashlight piercing the darkness. A woman sat on the edge of a bed, her thin frame draped in a cheap silk robe. She was in her early 40s, her face lined with years of pain, but Simon knew her instantly. Laya Ortega, the deputy who'd vanished into the desert night. Laya, he said softly, holstering his gun. It's Detective Simon Reyes, Presidio PD. We're getting you out. Her head lifted, her eyes dull but flickering with recognition. Simon, you're too late. Laya's gone. I'm just this now. Her voice was flat, broken, but she stood, swaying like a ghost. You're Deputy Ortega, Simon said firmly, stepping closer. And your mom's waiting for you. Come on. Laya's lips trembled, tears welling. Mama, she's still alive? Damn right, Simon said, offering his hand. But we gotta move. Tell me what happened. 85, the saloon, all of it. She took a shaky breath, her words spilling like a dam breaking. Holbrook and I were chasing leads on missing girls. We hit the dusty spur, asking about truckers. Lobo was there, watching. They slipped something in our drinks, Rohypnol maybe. I got dizzy, Holbrook too. We stumbled outside, but they were waiting. 4 men, Lobo leading. They beat Ray, shot him twice. I tried to fight, but they took me. Simon's stomach churned. And you? What did they do to you? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Ojinaga. They burned my ID, kept me drugged, broke my body, mind, everything. Renamed me Lucia, put me to work here. But I fought back, in my own way. Helped girls escape when I could. Called myself Phantasma. She's the one who kept me alive. Phantasma, Simon repeated, the drawings flashing in his mind. You left those, didn't you? The notes? Laya nodded, her eyes distant. Phantasma did. She's not me. Not really. She's what I became to survive. Simon radioed Hernandez. I've got Ortega, 2nd floor, last room. Need a medic and transport. He turned back to Laya, his voice gentle. We're getting you home. But I need to know where's Lobo. Her face darkened. He was here an hour ago. Said he'd burn this place before letting you take it. A shout from downstairs snapped Simon's focus. Race. It was Hernandez, his voice urgent. We've got a problem, someone's rigging explosives. Simon grabbed Laya's arm, pulling her toward the stairs. Move now. The hallway was a blur of smoke and screams, agents hauling girls to safety. He spotted Elena with Debbie and Trish, medics checking their vitals. But Kara was gone, her absence a knife in his gut. They reached the main floor, the air thick with the acrid tang of gasoline. Hernandez met them, his face grim. Lobo's men are dousing the place. We've got minutes before it blows. Get everyone out, Simon ordered, guiding Leia to an agent. I'm finding Kara. He pushed through the chaos, his flashlight sweeping the bar area. A glint caught his eye, a woman's silhouette, slipping through a side door. Kara, he shouted, sprinting after her. The door led to an alley, the fog swallowing the neon glow. Kara stood by a dumpster, her back to him, her shoulders tense. Kara, what the hell? Simon called, his Glock half raised. We're evacuating, move. She turned, her face pale, her eyes haunted. I'm sorry, Simon, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't have a choice. Before he could process her words, a sharp pain pricked his neck. His hand flew to his jacket, pulling out a crumpled note, slipped into his pocket in the chaos. The scrawl was hasty, but clear. Kara knows. She's one of them. His vision swam, the alley tilting as Kara's figure blurred. No, he muttered, stumbling forward. A deafening roar shook the ground, the brothel erupting in flames behind him. Fire licked the sky, glass shattering, screams piercing the fog. Simon hit his knees, the note slipping from his fingers. Through the haze, he saw Kara running, a silver ring glinting on her hand identical to the one from the cave, engraved with sombra. The world faded to black, and the last thing he heard was the desert's mocking howl, as if Chinati itself was laughing. The alley behind Rosa de Fuego was a furnace, flames roaring from the brothel as glass shattered and screams pierced the night. Detective Simon Reyes hit the pavement, his knees buckling, the note Kara knows. She's one of them slipping from his fingers. His vision swam, the silver ring on Kara DuPont's hand burning in his memory, its sombra engraving a taunt from the shadows. The explosion's heat scorched his back, but the fog of Ojinaga's red light district swallowed everything, turning the world into a haze of smoke and betrayal. Simon's Glock felt heavy in his hand, his pulse hammering as he fought to stay conscious. Kara was gone, vanishing into the chaos, and the truth was slipping through his fingers like sand. Reyes. Captain Roberto Hernandez's voice cut through the din, his silhouette emerging from the smoke. The Mexican federal officer grabbed Simon's arm, hauling him to his feet. Move, amigo. This place is coming down. Simon stumbled, coughing, his head pounding. Laya, the girls. Are they out? Safe, Hernandez said, dragging him toward the street. Your deputies, 2 Car, and Mero. Medics have them, but we lost 2 agents in the blast. Lobo's playing dirty. Simon's jaw clenched. Kara. She ran. She's with them. Hernandez's eyes narrowed, but he didn't question it. We'll deal with her later. Right now, we secure the scene. They reached the triage area, where medics tended to a dozen girls, their faces pale and haunted. Laya Ortega sat on a gurney, a blanket draped over her frail shoulders, her eyes fixed on the burning brothel. Elena Vasquez stood nearby, guarding Debbie Carr and Trish Maroro, who were handcuffed and shivering despite the heat. Simon's gaze locked on Laya, her words about Phantasma echoing her alter ego, the ghost who'd helped girls escape while trapped in hell. But Kara's betrayal was a fresh wound, and that ring tied her to Sombra, to the cave, to everything. You okay? Elena asked, her voice tight. Her leather jacket was singed, her notepad clutched like a lifeline. No, Simon admitted, his voice raw. Kara knew. This whole time, she was playing us. I need to find her. Elena's eyes widened. You think she's Sombra? Not Sombra, Simon said, rubbing his neck where the note had been slipped into his pocket. But she's tied to him, and Lobo. We're missing something big. Hernandez approached, his radio crackling. We've got a lead on Lobo. One of my men saw him bolt out the back before the explosion. He's headed for a safe house in Zona Rosa. We move now, we can catch him. Simon nodded, adrenaline kicking in. Let's go. Elena, stay with Leia. Keep her safe. No chance, Elena snapped, her eyes blazing. I'm not sitting this out. My dad's name is all over this Sombra, Lobo, the whole damn mess. I'm in. Simon didn't have time to argue. Fine. But you stay behind me. He turned to Hernandez. Lead the way. The safe house was a squat, concrete bunker tucked behind a dive bar, its windows boarded and its door reinforced with steel. The Zona Rosa was alive with neon and noise, but the alley felt dead, the air heavy with the stench of garbage and gasoline. Hernandez's team surrounded the building, their rifles glinting under streetlights. Simon checked his Glock, his heart pounding. Lobo was inside, maybe Kara, too. And Sombra? The shadow loomed larger with every step. Hernandez signaled, and his men breached the door with a battering ram. Policia Federal echoed as they stormed in, flashlights cutting through the dark. Simon followed, Elena close behind, her breath ragged but steady. The safe house was a maze of crates and plastic tarps, the air thick with the chemical tang of heroin. DE agents were already tearing into packages, shouting about kilos, but Simon's focus was singular. Find Lobo, find Kara, find the truth. A gunshot cracked from a back room, and Simon dove behind a crate, Elena dropping beside him. Stay low. He hissed, peering over the edge. A figure moved in the shadow stall, wiry, a pistol in hand. Raul Espinoza, El Lobo, his snake tattoo curling up his neck like a warning. You're done, Lobo, Simon shouted, his voice steady despite the chaos. Drop the gun, or I drop you. Lobo's laugh was cold, echoing off the concrete. You're late, Reyes. This town's mine. Sombra's mine. You think you can stop us? Simon edged closer, his Glock trained on Lobo's chest. Where's Kara? What's she got on you? Lobo grinned, his teeth glinting. Kara? She's a good dog, does what she's told. But you? You're a dead man walking. A scream cut through the standoff. Elena, tackled by a second figure. Simon spun, catching a glimpse of a knife flashing in the dark. He fired, the shot grazing the attacker's arm, and the man fled into the shadows. Elena scrambled up, clutching her side, blood seeping through her jacket. "I'm fine," she gasped. "Get him." Simon turned back, but Lobo was gone, the back door swinging open. He sprinted after him, bursting into another alley. Lobo was 20 yards ahead, limping but fast, his silhouette fading into the fog. Simon raised his gun, but a glint of metal stopped him cold. Kara, standing at the alley's end, her service weapon pointed at Lobo's back. "Kara," Simon shouted, his voice raw. "What the hell are you doing?" She didn't turn, her voice trembling but firm. "Stay back, Simon. This ends now." Lobo froze, hands raised, his laugh bitter. "You gonna shoot me, DuPont? After all we've been through, Sombra won't let you walk away." "Shut up," Kara snapped, her gun steady. "You used me, Raoul, threatened my family. I'm done." Simon approached, his Glock on Lobo, his mind racing. "Kara, talk to me. You slipped me that note, didn't you? You're not one of them." Her eyes flicked to him, glistening with tears. "I had no choice, Simon. Sombra, he's got my sister. Been holding her for years, same as Laya. I looked the other way, fed them intel, but I can't anymore." Before Simon could respond, Lobo lunged, a knife flashing in his hand. Kara fired, the shot deafening, and Lobo crumpled, blood pooling beneath him. Simon rushed forward, kicking the knife away, but Lobo's grin didn't fade, even as his breath rattled. "You'll never find Sombra," Lobo gasped, blood bubbling on his lips. "He's closer than you think, Reyes, always has been." Simon knelt, pressing his hand to Lobo's wound, desperate for answers. "Who is he? Where's Kara's sister?" Lobo's eyes glazed over, his voice a whisper. "Church?" asked the priest. He went still, his grin frozen in death. Simon stood, turning to Kara, but she was shaking, her gun clattering to the pavement. Blood seeped from her side, a wound Simon hadn't seen. "Kara, stay with me," he shouted, catching her, as she collapsed. Her eyes fluttered, her voice faint. "Sombra. He's in Presidio," she whispered. "Check the church." "I'm sorry, Simon." Hernandez's men swarmed the alley, medics rushing to Kara's side. Simon stepped back, his mind reeling. Lobo was dead, but Sombra was still out there, and Kara's betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. He grabbed his radio. "Reyes to dispatch. Suspect down in Ojinaga. Need medevac for Detective DuPont. Critical. And get me Padre Joaquin on the Lindenau." Back at the Ojinaga Federal Police Station, the air was thick with coffee and tension. Laya Ortega sat in a holding room, wrapped in a Red Cross blanket, her face a map of scars and survival. Elena, her side bandaged, stood guard, her notepad filled with frantic scribbles. Debbie and Trish were in cuffs, their heads bowed, their confessions spilling like oil. Simon paced the corridor, Kara's words echoing. "Sombra's in Presidio. Check the church." Hernandez joined him, his face grim. "Your detective's stable, but she's out for now. Lobo's men are talking small fry, mostly. They say Sombra's the real power, calls the shots from your side of the border." Simon nodded, his jaw tight. "Padre Joaquin knows something. He's been dodging me too long." His phone buzzed. Joaquin, his voice shaky. "Detective, I heard about Ojinaga. Come to the church. There's something you need to see." Simon grabbed Elena. "We're heading back to Presidio." "You good to move?" She winced, clutching her side. "Try stopping me. If Sombra's in that church, I'm ending this." The San Patricio church was a shadow against the Presidio night, its adobe walls lit by a single flickering bulb. Simon and Elena entered, the air cold and heavy, the pews empty. Padre Joaquin waited at the altar, his rosary trembling in his hands. A wooden box sat before him, its lid carved with the slashed circle symbol. "You've got some explaining to do, Padre," Simon said, his voice low. "Lobo's dead, Kara's down, and you're still holding out. What's in the box?" Joaquin's eyes glistened, his voice barely a whisper. "Confessions, from years ago. Men came, cartel men, speaking of Sombra. I kept their secrets. But this is different. He opened the box, revealing a stack of letters, some in Laya's handwriting, others in Spanish scrawl. One caught Simon's eye, dated 1990, Padre, I betrayed Ray. I had to. Sombra made me. Forgive me. It was signed Cara DuPont. Simon's stomach dropped. Cara? She confessed to you? Joaquin nodded, tears falling. She came years ago, broken. Said Sombra forced her to help Lobo, to frame Holbrook. Her sister was taken, held hostage. She's been his pawn ever since. Simon's hand shook, rage and betrayal colliding. Why didn't you tell me? All this time, she was in on it? I swore an oath, Joaquin said, his voice cracking. But tonight, I break it. Sombra's not just a man, Simon, he's one of you. Someone you trust. Elena grabbed the letters, her face pale. My dad, he wrote about Sombra too. Said he was untouchable, someone high up in Presidio. Simon's mind raced, pieces clicking into place. The ring, the confessions, Cara's guilt, they all pointed to a traitor in their ranks. He was about to demand more when the church door creaked open, footsteps echoing. Simon drew his Glock, spinning toward the sound. A figure stood in the doorway, cloaked in shadow, a silver ring glinting on his hand. Detective Reyes, the man said, his voice smooth and cold. You're closer than you know. Simon's flashlight caught the man's face, older, weathered, but unmistakable. Miguel Vasquez, Elena's father, presumed dead since '85. His smile was a blade, his eyes glinting with menace. Welcome to the truth, he said, stepping forward. Sombra sends his regards. Elena gasped, her voice breaking. Dad? No, you're dead. Simon's gun stayed steady, but his world tilted. Miguel was Sombra, the shadow behind it all. The church seemed to close in, the air thick with betrayal, and Simon knew the real fight was just beginning. The San Patricio church was a cavern of flickering shadows, the air thick with the weight of betrayal. Detective Simon Reyes stood frozen, his Glock trained on Miguel Vasquez, Elena's father, who'd been presumed dead for 19 years. The man's silver ring gleamed with the slash circle symbol, branding him as El Sombrath Shadow, who'd orchestrated a web of trafficking, murder, and lies. Elena's gasp echoed, her face pale as ash, her voice breaking. Dad? No, you're dead. Miguel's smile was a cold blade, his eyes glinting with a predator's calm. Not dead, Mija, he said, stepping forward, his boots scuffing the church's worn floor. Just reborn. Presidio's too small for truth, so I became something bigger, Sombra. Simon's pulse thundered, the pieces of the puzzle snapping together. Holbrook's murder, Laya's captivity, Cara's betrayal, all tied to this man. You killed Holbrook, Simon growled, his gun steady. You took Laya, ran girls through Ojinaga, played God with this town. Why? Miguel's laugh was low, chilling. Power, Reyes. The desert's a hungry beast, feed it, and it gives you everything. Holbrook got greedy, thought he could expose me. Laya. She was collateral, a lesson. Elena lunged, her fists clenched, but Simon caught her arm.